This channel is supported by Truefire. Truefire is an online library of
enough. You can get the Truefire All Access Pass for as cheap as they ever do it, the $99 thing. So just jump and do that if you're looking for the best price that you can get Truefire All Access for. So I've held off making a video about this. Now you know basically what we're talking about, but I didn't want it to be like a piling on type thing because I feel like there's already been enough attention and enough sort of like pointing out flaws and witch hunting and all that sort of stuff. But I wanted to do a video about why I think it's inherently kind of like just a bad idea to fake your videos in general, whether you're on Instagram, TikTok or YouTube as a guitarist, in the hope that maybe someone watches this who might be thinking about stuff, because I do get, you know, messages from some of you guys saying, you know, I'm thinking about this or whatever, or asking for advice. It's a very small amount of advice. I don't think anyone really wants to copy what I do. Yeah, but I'm not a good enough player that anyone has ever accused me of faking. But can you spot in this clip where I've done some fakery? Now, this is the thing. Actually, I thought I might be able to sneak this past some people, but when I look at it back and look at my hand moving, and all I did was actually shifted, I intentionally played a lick, a semitone below. And shifted it up a semitone so that it happened back in the right key, this little part here. But when I look at that video back and listen to it, like, it just doesn't add up. So in my head, I feel like because I do enough of making videos and syncing up hands with audio that I'm maybe a little bit sensitive to some of this stuff. So whenever, my opinion has basically been that whenever I see someone calling out like the fake stuff, that I kind of assume that we all were on the same page in terms of seeing that these things are obviously not, you know, actual playing. You're hearing audio that's been recorded elsewhere and all that sort of stuff. And now so it just seemed to me like it wasn't really necessary to point the stuff out because it's kind of obvious anyway. But the fact that Beato had this guy in his studio kind of shows that actually, I think unless you're super involved in this sort of stuff, then it is definitely possible to trick a lot of people most of the time. It's kind of what I've learned from this anyway. So I guess, yeah, that's kind of, you can do it. And morally, whether you should or shouldn't, I guess is up to individuals to choose. Like, we do live in a world with auto-tune. We do live in a world where, you know, there's much worse things going on than, you know, miming an Instagram video. But I think there are good reasons not to do it for yourself. So that's kind of the way that I'm tackling it. This is like, you know, why I wouldn't advise anyone to do this. I think the best video that anyone has done on this that I've seen was troygrady, and he kind of talked about like it passing off this illusion of being a live performance, getting the take, and when you know that it's not live and you know that actually like some of these parts have been pre-recorded or recorded bit by bit, and that the playing level is not necessarily anywhere near that, that there's something a little bit deceptive about like then, you know, giving that look like, oh yeah, that's the take. That was a really kind of perceptive thing, and so check out troygrady's video on that if you haven't already. But I thought that was a really good point. And it kind of nudged me on this idea that if you only want to do online playing, then this is maybe totally fine for you, and you could kind of view this as an artistic choice or whatever. But realistically, most of your playing will be in a bedroom if this is the way that you conduct yourself, I think. Because at some point, there's going to be a point where you don't know. So this is the thing that's happened for me personally. I have no idea where making videos in my bedroom would take me beyond playing in my bedroom, but I did get a call during lockdown from the keyboard player from Marillion, and then it's like, okay, suddenly now I'm in Real World Studios, Peter Gabriel studio, and I've got to record a guitar solo live in the room with other musicians, and it's kind of like, well, what happens in that case? I think that is one of the key reasons, is that you're potentially gonna find yourself in some pretty deep waters. You know, maybe even you get offered to do like big gigs. I'm gonna guess at some point, maybe in rehearsal, at some point you're gonna be in the room with someone, and it's gonna, like, the artifice is gonna fall away, and it's like, well, this isn't what I thought you played like. And that was one of my main sort of concerns when I started doing social media personally, because social media as a thing in itself is a little bit new, a little bit weird, and so I think a lot of the motivations and all that sort of stuff are kind of geared up in different sorts of ways. And like, for instance, Instagram and TikTok, most of the currency is just in high view counts. Like, you're not even getting really paid per view significantly well. YouTube is a bit different. Like, you can make a living kind of getting modest views like I do, but where the rubber hits the road is like, at some point what you're doing in your bedroom might require you to be doing something outside of your bedroom. So it makes sense, in my opinion, for you to try and keep those things in check. Like, if you're in your bedroom with a million takes, can you play at a certain level? If you're out of your bedroom with one go at it, what are you actually like? I think that is the thing, like the difference between recording on an album, playing it live. Like, there is often going to be a big difference. How big that difference is kind of, people can be, you know, put up with John Petrucci not being able to play the glass pigeon arpeggios perfectly, but, you know, there's certain things, if it's like nowhere near level, then people are just going to be like, well, that's weird, and that could really harm you, I think, probably, right? If it gets to this point where it's like, well, people want to see you play your music live and it sounds nothing like it, that could be a real detriment to you as a player. Then Alex Hutchins, I saw a video kind of responding to Adam Neely and Rick Beato, who kind of was reflecting on why maybe he's been too harsh on himself in this regard, and maybe fixing the odd flaw in a otherwise improvised performance might not be the worst thing. And I kind of think it's a bit of a slippery slope situation. In any case, like, if you're Alex Hutchins, Jack Gardner, Jake Wilson, Rick Graham, Tom Quayle, like some of these amazing players, you kind of think, well, I actually want to see the flaws in these guys playing. Otherwise, it's kind of like, well, unattainable. And so I'm encouraging Alex, if you're watching this, you know, we want to see the human element of it to some extent, right? And we want to know you're real. And to some extent, like, an all flawless take all the time just isn't really that real. There's this other thing going on where, when we're filming in our bedroom with a camera, you have the safety net of having multiple takes. Now, this is not inherently a bad thing either. Like, if you're in a studio, we only hear about people doing things in a first take because it's rare, and that means that when they're telling you about they're getting their first take, that most of their career probably wasn't first takes, because otherwise it wouldn't be memorable that they did that one on a first take. Do you know what I mean? So the idea of this first take player is in general a rare one, and so doing lots of attempts at a thing on camera is not in and of itself a terrible thing, but it makes it a different thing to actually playing live. That's something to remember each and every time you see someone who's maybe put a video up somewhere, that they're not maybe trying to deceive you or something, but, you know, is this, you know, them just getting out of bed, jumping in front of a camera, turning it on and giving it a take? Because that is a lot of the time what it is presented as, but probably it's not. You know, like most of the time when you see someone doing a really crazy trick shot with a snooker cue or ping pong ball or whatever, it's not your first take. Do you know what I mean? Like, that's kind of one of these other artifices of social media and of stuff in general, which is important to bear in mind. But that is why I think, on top of having the safety net of being in your bedroom, you don't need to mime as well. Like, you can just stop filming. And like, for me, if I try a thing a few times and it just doesn't happen, it means I need to sit back and practice the thing until I can actually do it. And this is, I think, what you're robbing yourself of if you're miming your videos and faking videos, is that you're kind of missing the whole point, which is the journey itself. And I don't think, I've done it in the past, like doing lots of takes and trying to get the perfect thing. I don't think that's anywhere near as fun as sitting down and just playing honestly and seeing what happens. Which is mostly now what I've done on this channel for however many years, and careers are long, and I think it must be not that much fun to do, like, right, I need to get this thing perfect, right, it's going to take 40, 50 takes. That isn't fun. Or playing things in note by note, speeding them up, all that sort of stuff, faking videos. I don't think that must be that fun either. But I can tell you honestly, as someone that just sits in front of a camera and improvises every day, that is fun. And trust me, it is, like, I think the best decision I ever made, except for having a kid. But it's so rewarding to just sit in front of the camera freely and try to play every single day. And no one's expecting me to be that good, which is lucky. But it's just, it is much better, I think. And also, not only that, but if you're doing multiple takes, that at least is like practice of getting something good. So that is like a real world skill, like being able to hone something and get something from being not as good to as good, because as you're recording lots of takes, you are essentially practicing the thing, and you are practicing playing guitar. Just miming, all you're really practicing and doing and getting better at is faking stuff, which is just counterproductive in general, right? So you can build a career on this for a bit, and you can, I think, build a bit of a following on this. But actually careers are quite long, as I'm finding out myself. And you look at like the guys like Alex Hutchings and Jack Gardner, these guys were visible still, even like back in 2008 through 2009. The guys that you're still seeing a lot of, they were around then as well. Like, careers are super long. So there is room, I think, and people kind of want to see development in your journey as well. So you don't have to be perfect. And I think this is like a little bit of a misnomer about what people are expecting to see, particularly on YouTube. I think people want to check in for a journey. They're not necessarily expected to be blown away by you all the time, not expecting perfection all the time. They're expecting, I think, you to make mistakes, like making a video where you open up an effects pedal and wreck it, and then, yeah, do you know what I mean? So yeah, that was my main real kind of takeaway from this, is that, like Alex Hutchings was saying, maybe I shouldn't be so strict on this. I think in terms of you as a guitarist and you as a creator, the point is that it's more fun not to have to go and fix your stuff. It's more real, and when you get in a room with someone else, you're not going to be feeling like, oh, well, I've got this image of myself to protect. You'll actually feel a little bit, this is for me, I'm just saying, I feel much freer to just give it a go, which I think is really more what this is about. Not have this feeling like, well, I don't want to be like exposed. Do you know what I mean? I think that is kind of what you set yourself up for if you do start going down the slope of like correcting things, miming. Once you get out of the bedroom, like, what happens then? And I think the main thing as well is that just playing can be so rewarding that I wouldn't want that to change, and I would encourage anyone else that probably is the more fun side of things. Like, if you're making videos, like, the guitar playing is the point, not really like the view counts, not really the comments so much, and the plaudits. And also, if you're having to then fight accusations of being like fake guitar playing, then that's got to be exhausting as well. So those are kind of my thoughts on it. You could do it, you might get away with it, but I think you'll probably have a longer career, a more enjoyable career, I think, if you just be who you are. Probably. I don't know. That could all be wrong, right? I don't want to point fingers at anyone in this video. This was kind of the point, is to kind of just encourage people that, you know, you don't have to be perfect, and the journey is really the point anyway. And especially with social media stuff, I think there's this idea that every video should be perfect. I was chatting to someone and they were saying, you know, it's like the inverse law, you've heard of it, like the more effort you put into something, you can almost guarantee that the results will be worse in terms of, this is the way that social media kind of works. And actually, I think, more think about it as you're on your journey and you're dropping off little things along the way, whether that be improvisation, whether that be solos that you've written. Try and present it in that way and think about it in that way, and I think you get away from this needing everything to be perfect all the time kind of thinking, and more into the kind of more enjoyable, happy creator space of this, which is probably what it's all about anyway. I don't know, let me know your thoughts in the comments on any of that. I didn't want to weigh into it until I thought I had something to contribute that maybe someone else hadn't already said. And when I saw Alex Hutchings saying, well, maybe we should like consider fixing up our playing and stuff like that, it's like, actually, I don't think that would help particularly, right? Like, I want to see Alex Hutchings playing, I want to see Jack Gardner's playing. They're already amazing players, and I don't think we need to see them fixing up like 2 notes in a 3-minute improvisation that was already mind-blowing. I want to see real guitar players playing real guitar as much as possible, please.